We got her! Hi, Randy.
Well, hello.
It's thinking.
This is the day you have trained for, the day you have studied for. Utilize your superior skills, your superior intelligence.
Sit down, rodent!
Sarah, baby! Oh, you were one fly! Don't make me hurt you.
Learn to defeat your ruthless enemy, Steve of Hackensack.
Ryan, you're gonna get roofed.
Shut up, quadruped.
Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
You guys got it made, Randy. You have no idea how it was back in the Genesis days. We couldn't think, couldn't adjust. Look what you got! My receivers couldn't do that, and our defense sucked. You'll never get beat by the same whack play over and over. You better appreciate what you got, Junior. Hey, let me go.
I think Jimbo got hold of a bad taco.
Hey, I'm a legend.
NFL 2K on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
Coming to a Dreamcast near you. You will feel the passion of Soul Calibur.
Man, she's off the hook. Oh, perfect.
Soul Calibur on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
No, what is it, Iverson-san?
I'm getting worked under the boards, Taka.
Show rebound stance. Bamboo reed need deep root for strength.
Go, come on. Here it comes. Give it to him.
Oh! Where'd he learn that?
NBA 2K on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
I could do one where I push into the CD. I don't know if that's...
That's sort of the price you have to hit, huh?
The
sub 200 price point is really important. Yeah.
Actually, when I was in Greece 2 years ago, I was out on Santorini, and in the store there, they had a box.
Static?
So I was like, no, it was like $300.
Oh my god.
I would do static, that way we'll do it on 2 cuts.
Okay. That's not a good adjustment. It was so good. We actually, when we were training developers how to write software for this thing, we actually pulled out all the Atari 2600 graphics and all this other stuff, but to make really good games, it's like, let's go back where you didn't have any graphics at all. What made a game really great? So we would pull out Space Invaders, Bolt. One of the Dungeons and Dragons games.
I remember, I had a friend who walked through it.
The dial that
Yeah.
was huge for a while.
And then Space Invaders was like this incredible development.
Big leap forward.
Yeah.
Because there was like...
Okay, just give your full name, spell it for me.
It's Joe Fielder, Joe
Fielder.
And what do we describe you as
I'm
here?
the executive editor of videogames.com, which is all lowercase unless it starts a sentence.
Okay. Well, what's the importance of the new Sega machine?
I think one of the most important things about the Dreamcast is that we're getting the next generation of graphics, let me start. Sorry.
Go ahead. You start. What's important?
I think what's important about the Dreamcast is that it's a significant step forward for video games, for console games. The graphics are comparable to an arcade system. They're comparable to a fairly high-end PC, and it delivers at at a pretty reasonable cost.
What would you compare it to for a leap in the game industry?
I'd compare the leap to from, say, the Atari 2600 to the Super Nintendo, and it's a fairly big leap. You're able to get graphics comparable to, say, Soul Calibur for the Dreamcast. It's a Namco arcade game. The arcade game would cost you about $7,000-8,000, and it only does the fighting game Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast actually looks better, and it's got extra features, and that's a pretty significant value.
But now, for instance, I'm told this stuff it's creating animation in real time. Mm-hmm. It has stored banks of figures and gestures, and then it makes up what they do in real time. Mm-hmm. That's big.
The animations are pretty incredible. NFL 2K, for example, one of our reviewers said that the experience of playing the game was almost like being down there on the field and playing with real players.
How much further do they have to go? What's the holy grail in video games?
It's hard to imagine how much better graphics can look. I think the end result would be graphics like Toy Story or another animated movie like that. Some of the things we've seen on the Dreamcast are approaching that. Shenmue, for example, is a game that's coming up in the next year, where you're moving around in a real world, talking to different characters, and the facial animations look like real people, albeit kind of a computer chrome sort of look to them. They look like real people.
So you're approaching having a $200 child's toy, mm-hmm. generating the kind of stuff that it used to take a whole corporation and a team of animators to do.
Yeah, it's. They've got a pretty big teams developing these games. So it's and development cycles. The more advanced the game, the more time that it's taking to develop games like this. You used to see games being put out in a year. Now it's looking at 2 years, possibly 3 years, as we've moved over from 2D sort of graphics like Mortal Kombat or what have you to 3D real worlds.
I'm tempted to say, as an outside observer, this is just another passing fling. They all come and they all go.
They all do, but I think what we're getting with this new, generation of systems is a point where casual consumers will stop and be kind of awed, where they'll be pulled in. People who haven't been into video games for whatever reason will be impressed enough. Well, they'll be like, let me try it out. Let me play it.
You think people will be stunned at how real this is?
Yeah, I think we are approaching that sort of Toy Story-like graphics. If not that, then very close, enough to give people pause.
Where could it possibly go from here?
I think the next step is to make things look like computer-generated movies. To get to that point where playing a game looks like a computer-generated movie. There are sequences within games called FMV sequences or CG sequences where you'll see little segments that are comparable to Toy Story. Tekken, the Tekken series is well known for its intros, which look even better than Toy Story. I think that's the final point we can get to where you're playing a game and the backgrounds are all like a film where you've got a full cast around you, instead of, say, like a fighting game where you're two people fighting on a flat 2D horizon.
For instance, that football game, you can just turn it on and let it play a game. It's like it's a game on television. Nobody's done that before?
There have been games where you can, set up to play by itself, but you might not want to sit down and watch it. Whereas in NFL 2K, the animations are so amazing. Watching the players get up and walk around and cough and everything, it's amazing.
What's the ultimate for a game player? What does a game player want?
I think the game player is looking for an experience, whether that's a one-on-one experience, like a story, like a role-playing game where you're put into a quest and you're taken into a storyline and you're the main character and you bring that story to fruition, or a good challenge, and that can be playing against computer opponents or playing against a live opponent if you're playing for against someone online, whether that's in a strategy game or a first-person shooter.
But what you see is as important, if not more important, than what you do?
Well, gameplay is always the root, I think. But graphics are just getting more and more impressive as time goes on. In the past, I think graphics were kind of iconic in the early days of, say, Space Invaders or Tempest, things like that. The side art was always really fantastic, but you would then look at the game and the graphics were very basic and your imagination kind of had to fill in those gaps. And we're getting to the point where a lot of the graphics that you're seeing they look like real people. And they look like, real characters instead of, little squiggly lines on a screen.
Okay. You said on the one hand they're taking more time to develop the games, but on the other, the technology is moving so fast that you said also that George Lucas says what he used to just do his latest movie is already, available almost at home. How do you reconcile those two things?
Well, that's a...
Yeah. Look at me when you answer that.
Yeah. The technology is moving very quickly, but on the console side, on the home video game side, you have certain plateaus. When a new system comes out, developers have a few years. The life cycle of a system is probably about 4 to 5 years. You've got that time as a developer to learn the system and learn its capabilities. On the PC, it's a little bit harder, I think, for developers to develop games because the standard's always changing. Every 6 months, there's a new card or there's something new to develop for. But you really get to learn how to get the most out of a system when you have no place to grow.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's good.
Maybe the online side for the Dreamcast?
What?
Yeah,
because that's a whole new avenue they're exploring.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are talking about pretty early about how this is going to be a big new thing for video games. When on the PC side, it's taken a long time to figure out a lot of issues of playing games over online. Things like lag, where you're playing against someone else, and say you're doing a fighting game, you hit the punch button and you have to wait for the punch to arrive, or someone else punches you in that time because they have a faster connection. There's certain things like that that are going to have to be dealt with, and I don't know. There's certain hurdles that Sega and the people that develop for the system are going to have to get to. I don't know that you're going to be able to see a lot of really fast-running games from the get-go on the Dreamcast. In the beginning, they're starting off kind of conservatively, and I think they'll build from there.
It's sort of more promise than there is reality.
Yeah. It's kind of brought out as a bright new shining hope, whereas I think it's going to be a few years before it really gets moving, if at all.
Just thought of one other thing. They tell us upstairs they've sold or had people have come in and deposited money on 300,000 units. How impressive is that?
That's fairly comparable to the numbers of the PlayStation, Nintendo 64. That's fairly impressive because Sega has had kind of a tough record. The last system they came out with, the Saturn, people felt like it really wasn't supported too well by either Sega or third-party companies, and people felt a little bit burnt. A lot of the people that are buying console games, they can only buy one system every few years, and if they don't get like all the great games on that system, then they're going to kind of feel gypped. And I know a lot of people felt that about the Saturn. And from the get-go, when the Dreamcast was first announced, they said, no, I'm not going to get it because I was gypped by Sega. I think a lot of those people are turning around now that they've seen the system and seen that it's really getting a lot of support.
Okay, great.
I was just like, the new game is really a lot of eye candy, and people are going to be most impressed with the way it looks, but isn't it the artificial intelligence part where the game learns how to play against you and beat you? Is that, I was wondering if that's, is that new or exciting, or is that different?
Is that as important as the look of it?
Yeah, the gameplay is the main core of it, and that's always been the main core, and the graphics have been being built up over the years. Intelligence of the computer opponents has been something that we've been seeing more and more of a challenge, and that's, you know, some of the games that are coming out for the launch for the Dreamcast. They're not only really great to look at, they're really really fun to play. I mean, there's
and
a few
smart.
standout titles.
They play back.
They play pretty aggressively. I don't know that they play more aggressively than a game on a PlayStation or a Nintendo 64, but the level right now, the standard is pretty high.
Okay. Great. Good.
Cool. Play games all day. I'm just like,
what do you publish monthly?
we publish daily. Actually, sometimes several times a day.
It's all on the web?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
We are connected.
There's no paper publication?
No, not for us. We are connected with paper publication, Electronic Gaming Monthly, and the official PlayStation magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Just as GameSpot's connected with Computer Gaming World. But it's all the same company, and we both know our market better than the other do.
Well, I mean, does your stuff ever get printed, or somebody else is reviewing the same games and doing the same stuff for print?
Yeah, actually, that's the case. It makes them a little silly, but we're both reviewing for different audiences. There's some overlap on news and previews and things like that, where something I might write might show up over in print, or something that those guys write may show up over here. But it goes both ways.